Today we're going to be taking a look at Remotely. And if you're unfamiliar with Remotely is it is essentially, think of it as you running kind of your own TeamViewer server and clients. And so what you're able to do with this is you can kind of run a central dashboard via Docker that allows you to remotely manage and remote into all of your systems and really run commands against all your systems, whether they're Windows based or Linux based. So for me, I run a bunch of machines in Windows, mining machines. And so I'm going to be setting this up today and showing you how you can basically use it as a remote management app for Windows without having to use RDP. Right off the bat, what we have is this is kind of what the dashboard's going to look like once we get it set up and running. And you can see just from their screenshot here over on their GitHub, it's basically going to give you like high-level syslog information for each of your systems. And then once you open it, you can actually run a terminal session to actually run commands without having to log into it. Or you can basically remote into it through the web GUI and do whatever you need on it. And this does support things like reverse proxy servers, things like that. So if you wanted to be able to access this dashboard and those machines over the internet, you could do that as well by setting up your own reverse proxy server. We're not going to be covering that today. We're just going to be doing everything on our local network. And so I'm already logged into Portainer, so I'm going to be actually doing this on a Synology NAS. And I'm going to be doing this by creating a stack. You can also do this with just a Docker Compose file, and they actually provide the Docker Compose file for you. So it's actually in this folder. And so there's already the YAML file for getting this thing up and running. What we're going to do is I'm in Portainer. I'm going to go to stacks. I'm going to say add stack. And we are going to go ahead and copy and paste in what I have here. And so what we've got is the container is going to be remotely. This is the path to the image on Docker Hub. And the important things here are whatever port we want to map to this. 5371 is fine for me, no big deal. The folder path I'm going to map here. Again, I'm running this on Synology NAS, so this is the folder I'm going to map it to. And I'm going to run this in SQLite mode. So there are multiple database providers you can run. I'm opting to run SQLite on this one. And then all we're going to do is we are just going to name it. And I'm going to call it remotely. It needs to be all lowercase. I'm going to scroll down and hit deploy stack. And then this is going to go ahead and download the image and spin up the Docker container. So we're going to just give this a minute. Once the stack's created, it should return you back to this screen, and you can see we're now running a stack of remotely. And if we hop over to containers, we can see, let's go ahead and expand this out. And we can see remotely is now running. We can see it's running that stack of remotely. It's healthy. It's up and running. So what we want to do now is we want to use the port that we configured it to run under. And we're going to go ahead and open a web browser. We're going to go to that port. So for me, it was 5371. If you used a different port number in the stack, then you can go ahead and use that port. Once you're over here, we're going to do register. Now, you do have to have an account. The very first account you create will become the admin account. Okay. And now it's going to basically give us our device scripts. It's going to kind of log us into our dashboard. And here we can see we have all these options. There's tons of things that you can go through. If you hop over to user options, this is kind of where if you're going to use this to manage other systems, more of it as a proper help desk in an enterprise world, you can actually put in your own name here so it doesn't show your email address, things like that. And then also like the command shortcuts that you can run for each of the terminal sessions. And you will need to set up an organization, but before we do that, we're going to head over to server config. And this is kind of where you can manage all the user accounts, the server admins. You can ban devices. So if you there is an API piece to this, and if you want, you can make this accessible over the internet. If you decide you want to ban people, you can do that based on IP, device ID, or name. The data retention period, and then you can actually tell this to record your sessions, to enable the Windows event log, enforce attended access. So if you do this, this will work more of like the TeamViewer attended access, where it will actually notify the user that you want to gain access to their system, and they have to say yes or no. If you leave this unchecked, it'll allow unattended access, meaning nobody has to be at that end machine for you to remote into, which for us, because I'm setting this up in a mining environment, I'm going to leave this unchecked. And then max org count. Here you can do require 2FA as well if you want. So if you're going to do this over the internet, they do support 2FA. You can set up something like Authenticator or Authy, or even like Duo or Okta Authenticator, and that will prompt you every time you want to connect to a remote machine that you have to do authentication, but you also have to do 2FA. I'm doing this over my local network, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to configure email or anything like that. And that's pretty much it from the server config side. But if we go to home, actually we want to go to organization, and then here we want to set up a org. So I'm just going to call this, we're just going to call this home. And then here you can have device groups. So for device groups, what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this mining rigs. Hit add. All right, so now if we head on over to the home screen, we can see we don't actually have any devices showing here. So this is where you could filter out based on the device group. But what we need to do is we actually need to deploy the agent onto our Windows machines. There's a few ways you can do that. If you hop on over to the download section, you could just download the agents here. Basically like the Windows PowerShell installer. You could download this, or what I like to do is I like to go deploy. And right here, there's actually a full PowerShell script. You can just copy this thing. And let's go ahead and select it all. We're going to go ahead and copy that. And then we're going to connect to one of our machines, and we're actually going to run this. And what this should do is this should actually download the installer from this server. If you notice, it's using the local IP over the network, and then it's going to basically download that installer and run it. That's why you don't have to download the installer, copy it to the server, and then run it. All right, so I'm now remoted into a machine. This is actually one of my mining rigs that is running Varus mining. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open PowerShell. I'm going to right click. I'm going to do run as administrator. Hit yes. And I'm going to paste in that command. And we can see it's going to go ahead and download that installer file from the remotely server. It's going to put it into the temp folder. And then it's going to go ahead and launch PowerShell to run that script. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And you can see a new window popped open. It is downloading the remotely client. And there we go. So now the service should be installed. So if we hop back on over here and we go to the home screen, we can see we now have the machine on here. And you can see it already has the user. It's got the platform of being Windows. It's got the disk utilization, and it's got the memory utilization. If we click into this, then we can actually see the CPU is currently, up there because we are CPU mining with this machine at the moment. But we've got disk, and this has multiple disks because I'm running a storage provider. If we hit view all, we can see the free space on the C drive and then the free space on the D drive. So the D drive is what I'm running storage on. So it's a 1 terabyte drive. We can say I only have 148 gigs free, just to be expected. And on my primary drive, it's 250 gig drive. We've got 160 gigs free. And so it's kind of averaging out those numbers here. From a memory standpoint, we can see that we have a total capacity of 32 gigs of RAM in this system, and we're currently using 26% of that. It does assign a device ID, and then it has the last time it was online, the public IP. Because I'm running this in Docker and I'm not using a proxy, that's the IP that you're going to kind of see there. And then I can assign that to a device group. So I'm going to assign it to the mining rigs group. Hit save. You can also put notes. You can put tags. You can put device aliases or anything you want on here. And then there's also an actions section up here where you can do a view only session. You can do remote control, or if you do attended access, you can actually start a live chat session with whoever is sitting in front of that system. And you can also do uninstall. And if the computer is sleeping, you can actually wake it from here as well, which is a pretty cool feature. I set all of mine to not sleep, but in the event it accidentally does, from a misconfiguration, anything like that, you can wake it from here as well. In addition, at the bottom here, so if we hit a check mark here, and down here, we can actually run a command against that system if we wanted to. So if I wanted to do cmd and I wanted to run ipconfig, I could just type ipconfig here, wait a few seconds, and you're going to get the output of that. And so this is actually running on that system. So it's outputting an IP of 192.168.1.139. So if we hop back on over to that and we run command prompt, just verify that it is the same IP, and it is. So you can see in that scenario, it's actually running that terminal command directly on that system, which is pretty cool. So if you needed to update like a boot policy, or you wanted to change something from command line PowerShell, anything like that, you can do that all here without even having to remote into the system. So something else like hostname, and there you can see minirig1. Okay, perfect. And then there are also quick scripts that you can save. I don't have any quick scripts set up right now. But you can set those up as well under the scripts tab. So if you have like a predefined script that you want to do it, like if you want to build bash scripts, things like that, to the point where if you wanted to change, so the way I run things is I have a mining folder. We can go ahead and pull this up. I've got a mining folder with the startup script. And basically anytime the system starts up, it runs this script to start whatever miners I want to start. So you could actually, from remotely, you could create a script that would replace the contents of that file and do just a quick update and basically remotely change the whatever you're mining on your Windows machines. So it gives you a pretty cool advantage there as well. You can use environment variables. You can set that thing to schedules. So if you wanted to auto run a script, let's just say every 6 hours or so, you wanted to cycle what you were mining just because you wanted to stack various coins, you could actually schedule that script execution here. It would update that, basically run that command on the server, and you'd be good to go. Now, the other part to this is the ability to fully remote control. And so to do that, we're going to go to the Home tab. We're going to click on the system. And then if we do actions and we do remote control, it's going to say starting a remote control. And you might get this pop-up blocked. You want to always allow. We're going to say done. And then we're going to do it again. And there we go. We'll get a pop-up screen. And here you can see we have full interaction to this. And if we pull up Like if I close this out, you can see everything is interactive. So if we pop this open, just as an example, and we close out that window, you can see everything is basically, it's a full remote control session that we can do anything we want with. We do have full remote control, and on the, let's pull terminals back up here, and you can see when you do establish that session, it does say that there is a remote control session here, but you do have full control, do anything you want on the system. It is as if you are sitting in front of that system, and you actually have access to the monitors. So if you have multiple monitors set up to the system, you can actually switch that here. So you can switch which monitor you're viewing. You have access to the clipboard as well. And you can also do block remote input, which basically says that the remote user can't use like the keyboard and mouse type deal. And then obviously a control alt delete command if you need to get to that. But this allows you to do anything. So if for some reason we need to come in and do a reg edit, we could do that. Right? We have full access to do everything. So this is a good replacement for like Google Chrome Remote Desktop or TeamViewer or kind of any of those apps. And the beauty of this is that it basically gives you a central dashboard to manage everything from. Right? So if we basically take this deploy script, and I'm going to actually copy this again. And what I like about this is I can actually remote into a bunch of these systems real quick. And all we need to do is open PowerShell. And we'll be able to quickly deploy this to a few systems without much effort at all. Let's go ahead and open PowerShell on this one. So now if we take it and we run that command on that one, run it on that one, and run it on that one. Oops, and I did not do the first one, so let's go ahead and do this one as well. There we can see it is downloading across all of those. And let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so it's done on that one. It is almost done on that one, and almost done on that one. So we'll just give that a minute to finish up there. And if we hop back on over to home, we can see that we've now got those systems. We should have one more here in a minute. There is a refresh here. So we should see Mining Rig 2 pop up here in a minute. And there it is. So now we've got those 5 Windows mining machines that I'm mining on all popped up in here. And we can, at a glance, quickly manage those. We can kind of see everything that is going on. And if we want to filter just on mining rigs, this is where the groups come in handy. Is I only set up the mining group on the one. So you can have multiple mining groups. If you've got, you want to manage your mining rig separate from like a home lab, anything like that, you can do all that from within here. So I'm just going to go in, and once again, all you do is you just go in and you set the device group that you want it to be. Hit save, and then that will basically apply that device group. So we'll do the same thing here. And also do that on this one. And then I think I missed the blade one. So now we do mining rigs on this one. Come up here, hit refresh. Go to mining rigs. Let's hear. Oh, I missed one. Must not hit the save on this one. Mining rigs. Save. Okay. So now if we do mining rigs, refresh, there you go. And then you can also, if like all your systems are sleeping, you can do a bulk wait on the entire group, which is another cool feature. And then you can have it hide offline devices, or you can have it show offline devices. So by default, it will hide the offline ones. And this is another way. And then earlier I mentioned about having a quick script that you could run, to like change what you're currently mining, things like that. You could actually do a select all here. You could do quick scripts. I don't have any right now, but you could select that script and it will ripple through and it'll run that script against each of these systems. So that's pretty much it for this video. I just kind of want to do a quick walkthrough on how you get this thing up and running and kind of how you can use it. Very, very simple to use. And you do have that terminal capability to do things like command prompt bash, Windows PowerShell, or PowerShell core. And what's really cool about this too is that things like storage, they run PowerShell basically for the whole setup. So if I wanted to spin up a bunch of systems and I wanted to create storage providers, I could literally come in, I could create a quick script that ran in PowerShell that did the full setup, the generation of the private key, everything, and basically bulk run that thing across all of the systems. So makes things really easy to manage, and it gives me a quick glance at kind of the load that's happening on all the systems. And this is completely free to run. The management software does run in Docker, and then you just run the end client on all of your systems, the agent. Now, I only covered Windows in this, but they do support Linux as well. So there is if you hop on over to downloads, there's an Ubuntu executable that you can run. There's actually a bash installer for Ubuntu and also for Manjaro. So there are installs there. They also do support macOS x64 and macOS ARM, which would be like the M1, M2, M3. So you can run this on more than just Windows. In fact, I will probably at some point in the future install this on like some of my node boxes and other machines that I want to remotely manage. But this is kind of my go-to remote management software now for Windows. I was using terminals a lot. And terminals is nice because I can maintain sessions in tabs and they'll stay open if I'm doing some things long term or if I'm just trying to monitor things. But if I'm just looking to remotely manage here and there, and plus I have the bulk ability to, push out scripts, do anything like that, then I can definitely do that from here. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you're interested in seeing how you would create a custom script to kind of replace a miner and maybe, close out the old miner, start the new miner, definitely let me know. I can maybe do a follow-up video on that. But this is pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching.